What happens when the most decorated driver in Formula One history joins the most legendary team on the grid, and things still don't click? We're midway through the 2025 season, and Lewis Hamilton's Ferrari dream is starting to feel like a slow-burning frustration. The signs, they're everywhere, from disappointing results to growing tension inside Maranello. And now one former rival is sounding the alarm. But the real question is, will Ferrari turn things around before Silverstone? Or is Hamilton already thinking further down the road? He came to Ferrari with hope, with fire, with unfinished business. But 10 races into the 2025 season, Lewis Hamilton still hasn't stood on a Grand Prix podium on a Sunday. Yes, he snatched a sprint win in China. Yes, he looked sharp in Miami. But when the big points are handed out, Hamilton's SF25 has just not delivered. And now, even Nico Rosberg, Hamilton's famously intense 2016 title rival, is saying what many in the paddock have been thinking. Lewis is growing more and more impatient. Speaking in Montreal, Rosberg didn't hold back. He pointed to the Silverstone upgrade as Ferrari's last lifeline to calm the storm. If the update doesn't work, the frustrations will only grow, and fast. And who could blame him? Hamilton's been outscored by Leclerc, outpaced in qualifying, and boxed in by technical issues or strategic blunders week after week. The groundhog incident in Canada may have added insult to injury, but the cracks were already showing. As Hamilton said post-race, it just went from one thing to another, and for once that wasn't a metaphor. Inside the garage, Ferrari's engineers are doing everything they can to keep a lid on things. But Hamilton's comments suggest that even he isn't getting clear answers. There's something coming, I think, but I don't know how much, he said after Canada, referring to the much-hyped Silverstone upgrade. It's expected to target rear suspension tweaks, a crucial fix for the car's ride height sensitivity. But will it be enough? Hamilton doesn't sound convinced. I don't think it's going to be a lot, he added flatly. Not exactly the optimism you want to hear heading into your home race. Rosberg, meanwhile, has a different take. Stop chasing 2025 and go all in on 2026. That's when Formula One enters a new era. Smaller, lighter cars, new power units, and a total reset. For Ferrari, it may be their only realistic shot at giving Hamilton the car he thought he was signing up for. Because let's be honest, Lewis didn't come here to fight for 5 pence and hope for podium scraps. He came to add one more title to his legacy, and right now, that window is closing fast. Something fishy happened behind the safety car in Canada, and Max Verstappen was this close to a race ban. But was it just racing, or was George Russell playing mind games with high-stakes consequences? Red Bull protested. Christian Horner dropped a veiled accusation, and suddenly a subtle brake tap turned into a full-blown controversy. If you thought the drama ended with the checkered flag, you need to hear this. Let's unpack how a single moment behind the safety car turned into a tactical flashpoint, and why Red Bull are accusing Russell of trying to set Verstappen up for a fall. The race may have ended behind the safety car thanks to the McLaren meltdown between Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri, but what really lit up the paddock came moments later. George Russell, in P1 and being tailed closely by Verstappen, suddenly braked hard heading into the final chicane. Verstappen, caught off guard, veered to the right and momentarily passed him, before quickly dropping back. Almost immediately, Russell jumped on the radio. "He overtook me behind the safety car." It seemed innocent enough, until Red Bull launched a double protest against Russell. The accusations? Erratic braking behavior, falling too far behind the safety car, well beyond the legal limit. And Christian Horner wasn't pulling punches in the aftermath. He hinted that this wasn't just a moment of misjudgment. It was premeditated. You could hear from George's press comments yesterday. His objective was reasonably clear, Horner said. "I think it was inevitable there was going to be some potential gamesmanship." Gamesmanship? Let's go back to those comments. Just a day earlier, after qualifying, Russell cracked a cheeky remark that now sounds a whole lot less like a joke. Lining up alongside Verstappen on the front row, Russell smirked. "We're mates, so it's all good. I've got a few more points on my license to play with. So yeah, let's see." Max Verstappen came into the Canadian GP with 11 penalty points, one more, and he'd serve a one-race ban. It's rare in Formula One, and a massive deal for a title contender. So now picture Russell braking hard with Verstappen in his mirrors, right after joking about having more points to play with. Coincidence or psychological warfare? Red Bull clearly think the latter. They lodged the protest and questioned the intent behind Russell's driving. The onboard footage even showed George peeking into his mirror before stomping the brake, just enough to bait Max, without breaking any hard rules. The stewards didn't buy it. Both protests were denied. But Horner's message was clear. This wasn't a one-off racing incident. This was a chess move. The distance to the safety car was 3 times the limit, Horner emphasized. Heavily braking while watching Max in his mirror? You draw your own conclusions. Now the tension ramps up ahead of Austria. Verstappen is still on 11 points. Russell just scored his first win of the season, and Red Bull are watching every move with a magnifying glass. What happens when asking tough questions leads to targeted hate? One Sky F1 presenter just hit pause on her online presence after weeks of abuse, and the reason why will leave you stunned. This isn't just about drivers, penalties, or press pens. It's about what happens behind the cameras, where the cost of simply doing your job can become too much to carry. And this time, it's not just fans piling on, it's coming from all directions. Let's break down the fallout, the response, and why this moment matters more than it might seem. Rachel Brooks has been a constant presence in the F1 paddock for over a decade. You've seen her on your screen since 2012, interviewing drivers, anchoring race coverage, asking sharp questions. But behind the camera, things took a dark turn recently. It all kicked off after a tense exchange with Max Verstappen following the Spanish Grand Prix. Verstappen had just tangled with George Russell in a controversial on-track scrap. The incident earned him a 10-second penalty and 3 points on his license. When Brooks questioned whether Verstappen's aggressive style might take some shine off his overall talent, the Dutch driver shut her down quickly. Well, that's your opinion. That clip went viral, and so did the backlash. What followed for Brooks wasn't criticism. It was a flood of vile abuse on Instagram and X, formerly Twitter. Personal, relentless, and completely out of proportion. It didn't stop there. The week before, she had interviewed a visibly downbeat Lewis Hamilton after a rough Monaco GP. That interview also rubbed some viewers the wrong way, despite the fact Hamilton later apologized off camera, saying he was just so down post-race. By the time the Canadian GP rolled around, Brooks had had enough. Comments, shock tags, should mentions on here and on X have been disabled for the foreseeable future, she posted. The amount of vile abuse I received after the Spanish GP was enormous. This wasn't about a single question or a bad take. It was the backlash to doing her job as a journalist. Brooks wasn't the only one facing the fire. Fellow F1 reporter Lee McKenzie also went public about the vitriol she received after returning from hospital treatment. In a powerful message on social media, McKenzie laid it bare. I've been struggling with some health issues, and the comments about my appearance and weight have been horrific. She went on to describe how deeply personal the comments were, especially disturbing because they came not just from strangers, but from both men and women. If you don't like what someone wears or looks like on television, feel free to think it. But why send it to them? I'm a journalist. I'm good at my job. I'm furious this affects me. But it does. Even Damon Hill, former F1 world champion and Sky pundit, stepped in. To those who posted abusive messages, go get some help. You are mentally unwell. And he's right. This isn't about not being able to take criticism. This is about public-facing professionals, often women, being reduced to punching bags for viewers who treat social media like a free-for-all battleground. When journalists doing honest, even difficult work are met with hostility instead of discourse, something's broken.